All right, y'all. Welcome back to the Grab Some Popcorn podcast. Your host, Jared, here to do a standalone review. Today, I've got Return to Silent Hill, a movie I was very excited for. Anticipation was real high for this one ever since I heard that it was coming out. I had recently played the game, the Silent Hill 2 remaster that was out, and I liked it a lot. So I was really looking forward to seeing this movie, and a lot of the trailers and clips I saw looked just like the game. So I was very happy to go and see this in the theater. This review is going to be a little bit different. I don't want to break the movie down scene by scene. I just want to talk about a couple of specific things that stood out to me. This game has been out for a very long time. I mean, the original was out, I think, on the PlayStation 2, or it might have been 1, but it's been out for a very long time. So most people are already familiar with the story and the lore and the characters and everything. And this movie does a good job of bringing all that on the screen. But let's get into the review. So the first thing I want to talk about is whether this movie really understands Silent Hill's psychological horror, or if it leans more into typical modern horror. So I think the movie genuinely tries to respect the symbolism and psychological horror of Silent Hill, but unless you're already familiar with the source material, a lot of that meaning might go over your head. The film doesn't always explain what things represent, it just shows them instead, which I actually respect, but it can make the deeper themes harder to grasp for newcomers. In Silent Hill 2, many of the monsters and horrors are manifestations of James's guilt and eternal punishment. And while the movie attempts to carry that idea over, it struggles to fully elevate it, especially because of how the story ultimately ends, which I'll get into later. The movie does include some jump scares, but I don't feel like it relies on them. Most of the horror comes from the atmosphere. The environments are consistently creepy and immersive, and the film does a great job of making you feel like you're truly trapped inside Silent Hill the entire time. All right, let's talk about James a little bit. I think the movie ends up splitting James into almost two different characters across its runtime. In the first half, he feels more confused and detached, like he's just drifting through events rather than actively driving them. We're initially shown a version of him that seems happy, but that turns out to be a flashback. When we return to the present, he's drunk, he's alone, in a bar, and on the verge of being kicked out, which points to a much sadder and more broken reality. As he enters Silent Hill, that lost feeling continues. He's wandering with a destination in mind, but without much emotional direction, and the movie leans into his unresolved grief by showing his ongoing mental health struggles and his connection with the psychiatrist. In the second half, we get a more emotional, numb, and damaged version of James, someone who feels more hollow and worn down by his guilt. I like the idea and concept, but I think the performance doesn't fully elevate the character to the level of complexity we see in the game. And I think a big reason for that is a major story change. In the game, James kills Mary, and that unbearable guilt defines his entire psychological journey. In the movie, shifting that responsibility, especially by framing it as him assisting her suicide, softens the weight of the guilt and weakens the emotional core of his character. Let's talk about what I liked from this movie. One thing I genuinely like is how well Return to Silent Hill translates Silent Hill 2 to the big screen. There are so many moments that feel pulled straight from the game. James picking up blunt objects as weapons. He's using the radio. He's using the flashlight. He's running through Silent Hill trying to reach Mary. And as a fan, it was cool to see those iconic gameplay elements brought to life in a way that still felt authentic. Even though I mentioned that James tends to wander in this movie, I'll give it credit for keeping a fairly quick pace. You don't have to wait too long for the next major Silent Hill moment. Whether it's a creature encounter, an eerie location, or a story beat, that steadily flow kept the movie engaging and made it feel like a continuous descent deeper into the town's nightmare, which I appreciated. Let's talk about what I didn't like. One of my biggest issues with the movie is the overuse of flashbacks. At a certain point, it almost feels like everything's a flashback, to the point where you really start to question what actually happened and what did. I get that they were probably going for a mysterious or psychological vibe, but after a while, it stops feeling intriguing and starts feeling confusing. I had seen people complain about this before watching and thought it sounded exaggerated, but after seeing the movie, I completely understand that criticism. I also didn't love the decision to give James an iPhone and set the story in a more modern time. There's really no strong reason for this story to take place in present day. Silent Hill feels more timeless, and if anything, modern technology slightly weakens the isolation and atmosphere that makes the town feel so haunting. Even if the game technically isn't locked into a specific era, the movie didn't need that update. Another major disappointment for me was the minimal use of Pyramid Head. He's barely seen in the movie despite being one of the most important and meaningful figures in the game. Pyramid Head isn't just a cool monster, he represents James's guilt and desire for punishment. The movie does show a glimpse of James, inside of the Pyramid Head, but I found this to be a huge mistake in the movie. Sidelining Pyramid Head feels like such a huge missed opportunity. For a character that's central to Silent Hill 2's themes, his limited presence was a major mistake. Overall, I thought Return to Silent Hill was a solid but flawed movie. I'll admit I might be a little biased because I really like the game, but I still think this film is serviceable as an adaptation. If you're a fan of Silent Hill 2 or psychological horror in general, I'd recommend checking it out, especially for the Easter eggs and references that will land harder if you know the source material. That being said, I'm giving it a 4.5 out of 10. It's a low score because the movie misses the mark on some major thematic and storytelling choices, but it still delivers enough atmosphere and recognizable moments and fan service that'll make it worth at least one watch. That's my review. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you thought of the review and let me know what you thought of the movie. And we'll see you on the next one.